pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mark's going to do the roll call.
City of Ansonia, to O'Malley,
Here. I'm here.
Beacon Falls, for Selectman Smith,
I'm here.
Town of Bethlehem, for Selectman Sorty. Let's see him, yeah, he said he was on virtually.
Yeah.
City of Bristol, Mayor Caggiano.
Here.
Town of Cheshire, the alternate, Mr. Martelli.
Here.
Morning. So, yeah. City of Derby, Mayor Zekin.
Here.
Middlebury, First Selectman St. John.
Here.
Borough of Naugatuck, Mayor Hess.
Here.
Town of Oxford, Kristen Rosa, alternate.
Here.
Town of Plymouth, Mayor Phil Duffstead, he would not be able to make it. Mayor Chatfield, Town of Prospect, indicated he would join virtually. Town of Seymour, First Selectwoman Dragonis, indicated she would join virtually, not yet. City of Shelton, Mayor Loretti is not here yet. Town of Southbury, First Selectman Mansell indicated he would not make it. Town of Thomaston, First Selectman Moan.
Here.
City of Waterbury, Mayor O'Leary.
Here.
Town of Watertown, Mark Remo, Town Manager. Indicated he joined virtually. Town of Wolcott, Mayor Dunn.
Here.
And Town of Woodbury, First Selectman Perkinson.
Here. Here.
Thank you. We have a forum for both the NPO and the NVCOG.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Public comment. Anyone here from the public that wishes to address the NVCOG? Anyone here from the public? Okay. Moving on to item agenda 2, CNVMPO meeting. Approval of the CNVMPO resolution 2023-06 tip amendments. Project number 01703648 and project number 0151. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. So yes, I have two tip amendments for you. The first one for project 0170-3648 will be concrete sewer on various bridges along I-84. This is being done to extend the service life of existing concrete structures on these various bridges. The total cost of the project will be $9 million, with federal contributions totaling $7,200,000 and a state match of $1,800,000 with no local match. The second project is water phase 2 in Waterbury. We are putting this tip amendment together. We are changing it to remove the state match, since this is in a disadvantaged community. So this will be a complete federal dollar amount. So the total cost would be $23 million, and like I said, just federal, no state or local match. We are changing the tip slightly as presented in your packet. The years for 2025 and 2026 will be changed to FYI because the state tip does not run out after 2024. So those dates will still be the anticipated dates for those phases of the project. So I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Can I have a motion? We'll do them one at a time. Can I have a motion for the approval of item agenda 2A?
Moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And can I have a motion now for item agenda 2B?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Thank you. Okay, item agenda 3, NVCOG administrative items.
What we have,
I thought we just did B.
no, that was just for the tip amendments, and we had a second one regarding the TMA status is different than the amendment.
Oh, I apologize. Okay.
Before we get going, we did get joined by, First Selectman Manzo from Southbury.
Okay,
So he's online.
great.
Yeah, this is, just a real quick, update. Federal regulations designate, large urban areas, with population over 200,000 people as what's called a transportation management area, or TMA. It provides the MPO with a little bit more authority to select projects and run type of program. Woodbury urban area after the 2020 census was at 199,370 people, with 687 short of that 200,000 population threshold. We are proposing to request TMA status for the Woodbury urban area and the CNVMPO. We can do that by requesting that through record to the USDOT secretary with the approval of the governor. We feel this is beneficial to our region. We are an MPO that has a total population of about 360,000 people, well in excess of the 200,000 minimum. And we do our planning program as if we were a large urban area. So this status would, again, just provide us some better authority to select projects and identify projects, how we want to program on the funding that's allocated to the region. So this is a resolution asking for its approval or endorsement of that action and authorizing the executive director to pursue TMA status with USDOT.
Great.
Move. Second.
Discussion.
Makes a hell of a lot of sense. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We got at least 6,000 more people in Naugatuck than they say we have, and I'm sure it's true everywhere.
and yes, 687 people is like.
I was trying to figure out how many more we have. I think it's at least 10 now. That's up.
I would say more if it's comparable to others.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the census is that there is a undercount but there's,
How do we fix that, Mark?
we can't.
Why not?
The only way you can is to get people to actually submit.
Well, yeah, well, if they go to a 450 home and they say there's 12 people,
Yeah.
and I know there's 32,
Yeah.
and they do it for every home in Naugatuck, there's something wrong.
Understood. And that's why it's really not, using census data is not always the best way of, determining, what we can do or not do. Because there are a lot of flaws in conducting the census, but our hands are sort of tied. We understand there's an undercount. They understand there's an undercount.
Our hands are tied. I don't feel restrained by it.
But we'll pursue that. It's not a difficult process, just one that we need to get the governor to sign off on. And but we have been talking about doing this for a while, but we wanted to wait for the 2020 census to see if we did make it. So we didn't quite make it, so we're gonna push for
You made a compelling case.
it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if just one question for Mark, or do we have to go in order to the governor and then to USDOT, or can we submit simultaneously?
I was basically going to reach out to the Federal Highway first, just to let them know and double check the process. Coordinate with the CONDOT, CTDOT, to get their agreement and request the department to sort of reach out to the governor's office. So that everybody's in agreement that this is, a reasonable request.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the resolution is empowering me to work forward on this. I just want the board to know, we will let you know before any outreach is done to the governor's office so that you're all aware of that when that happens.
Yeah, because I think the intent was to reach out to DOT first and get them in agreement on this. We talked to them about it before, so it's not something new. They're aware of what we it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded and discussion has been had. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Thank you. Okay, item agenda 3, NVCOG administrative items, approval of the minutes. Move December 9th, 2022 meeting.
Moving along there.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 3B, approval of agency financial reports and summaries for the period of 11/30/22. I know Mike is, I think, leaving Florida, attending the funeral of his grandfather, so if it's okay with all of you, I think we'll just move this along, table it. Motion to table, yeah. See you guys, we'll take care of it next month. Is that okay?
That is fine.
We need a motion to table it or not?
Yes. I believe you.
Okay, motion on the floor by Mayor Dunn.
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. 3C, review of the fiscal year 2022 audit report. I would suggest we do the same.
I would agree.
Motion,
Mr.
second,
Mr.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Rick, I tried to interject.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
just,
Ray.
I know you want to move along. I just want to point out, there's a copy of the audit, the final audit in your packets. We did not, this is on the agenda because we didn't get a chance. We anticipated doing it at the executive board meeting that was canceled. Just point out to you, the bottom line is that we ran a $30,000 surplus for fiscal year 22. There were no either major or minor audit findings whatsoever in the report. So very clean report and a surplus when Michael was performing magic with those legal fees last year. So I just thank you for letting me point that out.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
For what it's worth, Mayor, Michael brought it to me, we reviewed it together, I had to sign the document because it needed to be submitted. I would concur with what Rick just said, there was no material and or minor findings, and we finished with a surplus.
Well, that's a relief. Thank you. All right. And then we have now item agenda 3D, approval of the fiscal year 2023 mid-year budget. Same thing, folks. You want to table till Mike gets back? Motion to. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it looks like 3E is similar, approval of the FY 2024 preliminary budget estimates.
Okay, move the table.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think this one we can handle.
Yes, we can.
The approval of the NVCOG meeting schedule, 2023.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there was a request at the last board meeting to discuss moving the regular board meeting to the third Friday of the month. Lauren surveyed the members who responded. There was no opposition, unanimous approval or recommendation of approval to move to the third Friday, but not everyone has been able to weigh in. So we wanted to place it on the agenda for your discussion. And if you should decide to do this, then we'll publish a new meeting schedule.
How do y'all feel about that?
Neil, I was the one who proposed it, and for the simple reason that I felt that, and we asked Michael, by the way, if we waited yet, and Rick, if we waited yet another week, would we be able to get the financial reports? In other words, right now, instead of looking at November, right, we could look at December. It would give you ample time to be more current with the financial analysis. And that's why I raised the question entirely. It appeared that Michael said he could get it done. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rick. And that's why the question has been brought forward. Again, I personally would like to see more recent financial statements.
Okay.
I feel like folks have had at least a month to respond at this point, so if you have responded, then I think we gotta go with what people who have responded recommended.
Yeah, listen, I'm unless someone else
All
does.
those against.
All right,
So then I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 meeting schedule as presented.
I think it's presented, is it still presented at the second week?
No, I'm here. I got.
No.
Is it the second or third? You did a third week. I'm
Is
here.
it?
Okay, perfect, thank you. And we'll make that clarification. It's the third week, unless it's a holiday, blah, 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 but yeah, third week.
Excellent.
I'll say.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So just for the personal privilege on that, now it's a good segue. So I'm sure most of you noticed that I was pretty absent in the third quarter or fourth quarter of 22 for the meetings. There's a lot going on in the O'Leary house right now, and suffice to say that my absence was in a large part to my presence at a medical facility in New Haven, not for myself, but for a close family member. And my daughter had surgery as well. So I'm back. Everybody's on the right track, and it's good to be here with all of you. Thank you.
I'm very sorry to hear the personal issues, Mayor, for the family, and I hope everyone is getting well.
Thank you.
Best
Thank you.
wishes there.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is the director's report. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Yes, sir. So I'll try and make this brief. I wanted to touch on a couple of things for you all going into this year. First, obviously I'm at home right now, and I'll just let you know, since we didn't get a chance to discuss it at the executive board meeting, I am going to be taking a short leave for surgery the week of February 20th. I'll use accumulated time that I have coming, sick time or vacation time. And I only anticipate being out of commission for 5 to 10 days, somewhere in that vicinity. And then I'll be working from home for an extended period of time. But much as I've been doing most days of the week for the last month, working from home, it's been working out fine. I've met with all of the staff. Obviously we have a really good team. I can depend on Mark and Josh and the front office team to keep the wheels turning. The projects that I am involved in deeply, such as Brownfields projects and the Kinneytown Dam project, I've met with Aaron, we're in good hands there on Kinneytown, and Ricardo has his hands around the Brownfields projects. So I have full confidence we won't miss a beat, and things will be just fine. The legislative update. So we have a team working on this, since I won't be making the sessions at the legislature this year, or able to keep up with some of the committee work. We've put a team together to track things. So Drew Backlick, who I believe is either there in the room or online, Drew, and Jack De Oliveira, who continues to work for us remotely while he's doing his doctorate, will form the heart of that team, along with some of our planning, our leaders in the planning units, just tracking their own respective activities. I think most of you noticed over the last 2 sessions, we've given you more information about the outcomes and when you need to implement things. You most recently got a memo from the last session having to do with the requirements for electric parking spaces in new construction, commercial and high density residential. So we plan to do a lot more of that. But we, as tradition, we don't adopt a legislative agenda as a COG. We'll track individual issues. If you have issues to raise, please bring them to our attention so we can add them to our tracking, and we will let you know if there's anything that pops up that may not come through the CCM or cost channel. We'll bring it to your attention. On the RSG formula, this is really the main issue I want to bring to your attention again. It is what the COGs will be going after, and NVCOG in particular. If any legislators should approach you about this, we are looking to take the tax diversion for regional activities, and basically we want to increase the per capita distribution from OPM to the COGs by $1 per capita. The money is there. It's not a new appropriation. It's already being directed to OPM. It's just not being directed to the COGs. So there is plenty of money there. It's just a matter of the legislature deciding to change that formula number. So we'll be continuing to have that conversation, but I just wanted to inform you in case you're approached by any legislators. This will get NVCOG back to the budget cut we suffered from the state 2 years ago when the formula changed. By increasing the dollar per capita, that'll get us back to where we were. I would actually a slight increase. Last thing I just want to bring to your attention, we don't have Kennytown Dam on the agenda today, but so we're moving forward on it. It's basically in the hands of the land bank now, or will be quite soon. I wanted to let you know about the NOAA funding. So one of the things that was on the budget, there's a gaudy line item for legal. There's also a note on it having to do with our reimbursement. So following up on last month's meeting and First Selectman Temple's suggestion of reimbursing costs from the grant, we've begun to make some shifts in the submission on the NOAA grant for the actual expenditures. So as part of our submission, we're asking NOAA to allow expenses going back to September, which will cover everything that was budgeted in the original request for these legal expenses, because they've already begun in terms of the acquisition of the assets and the regulatory work. So I just wanted to let you know that, and that we've also been notified by NOAA that they do not anticipate January 1 start dates, big surprise, for the grants, and that they say they don't have, I believe the email said they don't have congressional approval for their spending plan, and they're waiting on that. I'm not quite sure what that means, but we are operating under the assumption that it'll be an April 1 start date for that grant project. And that's where we stand right now. Happy to answer any other questions, but I just wanted to bring those items to your attention.
Any questions? Anyone? Okay. I think we're in good shape there. Can we have a motion to adopt the director's report?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Item agenda 4, emergency management, Joanna.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am flying solo today. John Field is in training. What I wanted to mention regarding regional emergency planning teams, this is regarding Region 5. We had our steering committee meeting this past Monday, January 9th. One of the motions that's going to be forwarded to the full CEO meeting in February is approval of crisis track proposal, which would be an annual subscription to the crisis track software. Now, just to give you a little reminder, this crisis track software is damage assessment and management software for FEMA disaster declaration process. And what it does, it interfaces with the web EOC. It keeps track of location and replacement costs for grant eligible infrastructure like buildings, public utilities, bridges, and culverts. So this is supposed to be something that helps your towns go through the reimbursement process a little bit more smoothly. So this item is the annual subscription is going to be for about $7,900, and it will be voted on by the CEO. So if you want to weigh in on that, make sure you have a proxy come to the February 27th meeting of our Regional Emergency Planning Team 5. Regarding community emergency response teams, the Citizen Corps group, they're revamping standard operating procedures and activation protocols, and there will be an REPT5 centric CERT leader meeting toward the end of this month. And that's all I've got for today. I can answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Joanna. We don't need to do any motion on that.
No.
Item agenda 5, NVCOG planning and transportation. Rich.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to start with the Metropolitan Transportation Plan update. I'm very excited to say this is our last MTP update for you. We will be bringing the final draft of our MTP along with air quality conformity determination before the board at what will now be our February 17th meeting for adoption. So our staff is busy finalizing the narrative for the new MTP. You'll find on the table in front of you, as well as on our website, a draft of the executive summary for the report. And so we encourage all of you to take a look and let us know what you think. We're certainly looking for any feedback we can get on it and are excited to make those changes. And then the other piece to this is for the member towns of the GBVMPO. We are working closely with NVCOG to finalize that report as well.
Great, thank you.
Moving on to the LOTSIP update. Rich, if you'll move forward one slide. There we go. So just a standard LOTSIP update for you. As we mentioned at the last meeting, some project delays or timeline changes, as well as cost provisions, have brought us back in line with our anticipated allocation from the state. And so what we had anticipated as a deficit has been pushed out and reduced pretty greatly. What this chart does not reflect is the anticipated increase in allocation to each region from the state that we hope goes into effect this year, and then again into the next fiscal year, which will address the entirety of our deficit in the future. As a result, we want to make sure that we continue to program the funding fully, and so we will continue to openly solicit projects and try and move projects forward into construction as quickly as possible. As we move into this summer, with the anticipated award of a couple more projects, including a few big ones, we are excited to say we'll have granted out 75 million into construction throughout the region.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item agenda 5C, Elliot.
I got it. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to provide a quick update about RAISE. We sent out a memo about it last month, so most of this might be review, but USDOT released the NOFO for RAISE for 2023 funding, stands for Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. It's a highly competitive grant program for projects that will have significant impacts on transportation, safety, equity, and economic development, generally prioritizing areas of persistent poverty and historically disadvantaged communities. The minimum request amount is 5 million, maximum 25 million. The funding ratio is typically 80 federal, 20 states. But for this round, 100% of funding can be federal if the majority of the project occurs in a disadvantaged area. We are available to meet with anybody who's interested in potentially preparing an application. It is a fairly extensive application. It'll be a pretty intensive process. And the deadline is February 28th, 2023. That's it.
Okay, any questions, anyone?
That's the old Tiger grant. Right?
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. They are extensive applications. So worth it if you get it. All right, and then we have
One thing I will add to, again, with the infrastructure bill that passed back a couple of years ago, it authorized RAISE for 5 years. So this program will be announced for 2024 and 2025, end of this year and the next year. So if you have any thoughts of a large project that fits this category, let's start thinking about it now so we can get ready and be prepared, better prepared to submit an application in the 2023 for the 24 program. Because this is an annual program for the next couple of years. So you just want to make sure, this isn't the last shot at getting this kind of funding.
okay. Other comments or questions? All good, Mr. St. John for Selectman Miller.
So far.
When I saw your meeting in the paper this week, I was laughing. It reminded me of the meetings we had in Waterbury a few years back when we were doing different projects. All right, here we go. We have
there.
Oh, I'm telling you. Item agenda 5D. Rich, back to you. Regional Vision Zero update.
Yes, I wanted to throw Elliot in there so you didn't have to listen to me for too long in a row. So as you all remember, we adopted a Vision Zero goal, a long-term goal to eliminate fatalities and serious injuries on roads within the region back in September. So now as we get into 2023, we just wanted to provide an update on some of the work that our staff will be working on this year to help achieve that goal. It's all detailed in a memo that went out in your packet, but just a kind of a quick overview here. The first thing we'll be doing is launching a campaign to share some information publicly. We will be calling this Envision Zero. It just works out well with the name we've been using. And so we'll add a page to our website. We would encourage all of the towns to link to it or to share it in some way. And this will include resources for drivers, for pedestrians and cyclists. It'll include data about the region, a list of the action items that we as the towns in the region are taking to address this issue, and any other information that any of the member municipalities would like to see posted there. We will also be preparing a new reporting tool, which will include information for each town individually, as well as for the region as a whole, so that we can be making the best database decisions as we move forward on implementing projects and especially quick build items. And then as we go through the year, and especially true if we are awarded money out of the Safe Streets for All program we applied for last year, we will be developing a comprehensive Vision Zero action plan, which will include a series of items that can be implemented both short and long term in some of the most dangerous areas on the roads throughout the region. A couple of the steps behind that plan are going to involve creating a subcommittee out of the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee to help advise on some of the engineering and implementation pieces of this, as well as maintenance of some of these new features we're proposing so that they are easily implemented at the town level. And then we'll also be working on putting together an enforcement subcommittee. And for this, we would like to include members of municipal police departments and public safety agencies. And so any assistance that you can provide in connecting us with people within your towns who would be interested in serving on that committee would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments?
Rich, excuse me, Richard, Rich, do you have anything with that bill you're gonna try to push through to keep the bars open till 4 a.m? I think that's gonna have an impact with pedestrians, and nothing good happens after 12 o'clock. I don't know why they're gonna keep it open till 4, but hopefully they put that in there.
How do you know that?
Yeah, and so that is actually an important piece of this overall is the Connecticut State Vision Zero Commission, which is established from it is the commissioners or their appointees of 7 state agencies have put together a legislative agenda for this year. And so they will be bringing some of the Vision Zero items forward, and I'm sure we'll have comments on keeping the bars open late for exactly that reason.
I guess it depends on what you describe or your definition of good is. Having said that, that is very bizarre in this day and age, but regardless, okay.
Yeah, we will definitely track that bill though, because that is an interesting one that will have implications here.
Yeah,
Thank you with the concept of the marijuana legislation.
I mean, the after hours clubs in Waterbury can object to it, that's for sure. Item agenda 6, emergent environmental planning, brownfield update. Ricardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So included in your agenda package, you will all find the most up-to-date brownfields project status. Within our last reporting month, 2 assessment projects have completed their testing. That's 300 Broad Street and 1 Main Street. 300 Broad Street, Bristol, and 1 Main Street, Berlin. We're just waiting for the LEPs to provide us with environmental reports on that so we can make our comments. Happy to announce that all remediation projects are moving along swiftly. And also happy to announce that the Minerva Street project can now start where it left off. They were recently awarded a $650,000 DECD award. So that project will now be moving along as well. If you guys have any questions on or need any assistance with your brownfields matters, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.
Good. We're still getting on the game, huh, Mr. Mayor?
Trying, and just for the record, through the chair, we had a grant that was given to us at the state, but for our old Sessions building, it was $2 million cleanup grant that you go through the COG, I don't believe, but we've actually pushed that forward. On wood, we should be closing the deal with the land bank. We don't have the developer on the other end, but we got approval from the state to go ahead and guarantee it as the city. So hoping to have a few other projects coming as well too, and appreciate the partnership.
Don't forget all about the CIF grant funding too. Yeah, I mean, that's $175 million. It's, some of it's been encumbered already, but the majority hasn't, so.
And it's about
you're all eligible.
6 months rolling. We just missed the last period. Well, if you didn't put in, you just missed the last period. We have some grants in there as well. But I think the next one will be due in November timeframe.
Oh, is it November?
Yeah, January 5th or 6th was the deadline for this round.
Yeah.
They're gonna, I think, allocate it in the March timeframe. And, you know, the monies will come out and November will be the next.
The next
deadline.
go around. Good. Okay, let's see. Sustainable materials management update. Katie?
Yes, hi everyone. So I'm excited to provide an update about the program that we have underway in Estonia. It started on December 5th. So again, this is the green and orange trash bags where we're asking residents to compost their food waste. So it gets turned into clean energy. And then we're also introducing the idea of using a special city color coded trash bag that helps us measure their waste. So right now with Ansonia, we're kind of doing another push because it started before the holidays, which is a really tough time of year to start anything, especially related to trash and waste. So we're doing another educational push. We've been out at the Stop and Shop in Ansonia last weekend and this weekend answering the resident questions. We spoke at the Board of Alders meeting on Tuesday night, and last night we had a really great conversation with some residents and the mayor and the president of the Board of Alders in Ansonia. Got some good feedback and built up some momentum for spreading the word in community groups around the city. So next step there, we have a fun kickoff fair event at the library next Saturday. We're also donating environmental books to help educate children and get them excited about the initiatives and the change that we can be part of. Woodbury's program is launching on February 7th. So we've also been out at the transfer station there, talking to probably at least 1,000 of the residents, which is about half of the transfer station users so far, to let them know that this program is coming. And then Seymour's program starts on February 13th. So we're just continuing to make connections at the municipal level, get residents asking questions, excited about it, and giving us feedback because it is a pilot program. And just as a note, again, there's no change to the recycling program. We're just trying to keep the education and outreach going there too. So we have the state recycling coordinator doing presentation in Ansonia 2 weeks ago, and then also in Woodbury. And I'm happy to take any questions about that.
Any questions for Katie? Good job. Thank you. Let's see, country disposal tour, Christine.
Yeah, more exciting garbage news for you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All the trash, girl.
Yeah, absolutely. So NVCOG has arranged a tour of the country disposal facility. You'll see a video right now. This one is branded for West Haven, but it's the basically the same idea. This is a waste sortation operation. All interested CEOs are invited. It is taking place Wednesday, February 8th at 10 a.m. in Wallingford. So as you may recall, DEEP has identified these two major strategies to reduce waste and address our capacity crisis. And that is unit-based pricing of trash and organics diversion. The most efficient way to implement these is through co-collection, where the color-coded bags are put into the same truck and sent to the facility, as you see here, where they're sorted out. The orange bags will go to their disposal destination, and the green bags will go to Quantum Biopower to be turned into clean energy. So if you'd like to see this in action, if that video was enticing enough for you, please join us on February 8th. Hopefully all the CEOs and their assistants have received invites. We would love to see you there. And if you have any questions about that, I think it will also be a great opportunity because the gentleman who runs that facility will be there to answer questions. I know that Ansonia, Seymour, and Woodbury already have these grants, but their DEEP has indicated there will be another round of funding for this. So if you didn't get the grant the first time around or didn't apply and feel like you may have missed the boat and want to try again, I encourage you to just sort of see it in action, ask some questions, and get prepared for the next round.
Through the chair, clarification question, for those communities that did apply in the first round, we need to reapply or
So-
is that application carried forward?
That's a great question. DEEP has really said very little about what this new round is going to entail. As soon as they do, we will be sure to let you know if you need to reapply or not.
Thank you.
Sure.
I wonder how our friends, municipal solid waste management are reacting to all this. I didn't hear any feedback.
Yeah, no, we're, it's big. I mean, we've been talking about it the last couple of meetings and the governor's getting an earful. from a lot of people, and just the other day it cost.
The labor intensive too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got these guys sorting, I mean.
I know, it's, and really, I mean, it's, everyone's got a different opinion, but it's just invest in the plants that are already going and burning it, you know, but it's crazy, it's so costly. The towns won't be able to afford this, I mean, with the grants, they're able to do it, but once those grants are gone, you're not gonna be able to afford to separate and just the cost of transporting it, so we're just behind the eight ball again, but hopefully this helps.
Yeah, and
A little bit,
presumably that's, I think sort of the rationale behind offering this grant, right, is that if you divert enough food waste, the tipping fee for food waste is generally half the market rate for trash. So the idea is that, you know, again, you have to see the data, have to see if it works for your town, but presumably by saving, you know, paying $68 a ton to divert the food waste as opposed to the $120 a ton, that's the market rate for solid waste, you could save some money, invest that in sortation.
120 a ton, that's what it's up to.
That's the market rate. Some people are still
Well,
locked in
there-
at really good contracts, which is,
Through the chair, yeah, that's with recycling, the recycling is included in that. Ours is, our tonnage is, was $67 a ton. We're like one of the cheapest around for solid waste. And we're good for another like eight years or so. And, but the recycling. It could be up to, last month it was $90 a ton. So that's crazy.
So, Kate, let me go first. Katie, I want you to come to Naugatuck.
so, yeah, back there.
Yeah.
And, well, anyone in this area,
Sure.
we're starting, we've been talking about it for a while, a project where we would have a partnership with our USA, our trash people, our wastewater treatment plant, Veolia, Synagro, who works on our marketing, our partner, Middlebury, Naugatuck and Middlebury have a partnership where they're gonna macerate and crush the waste, creating liquid, and then we would digest the liquid in Naugatuck. And we're looking for the state to help us with that, to help solve their own problem. And that, just getting rid of the liquid reduces a large amount of the volume. Now, to me, it's very logical. But it's been a process getting deep intrigued, but now they're intrigued. So I think we're gonna need some assistance to try and move this forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I speak for both of us when we say we would be super interested in helping you with that. Whatever support you need, we're here for it.
So Mayor, as this developed to create, will you have the ability to take on greater capacity? Can it become a regional project?
Or it would be regional because everyone who uses USA would be involved. Beyond that, I don't know, but they go way beyond Naugatuck. I don't know how many towns they have, but a lot.
But where do you get rid of the liquid?
Yeah.
So that's where we would, next to our wastewater treatment plant, we would build, assuming we get help with the cost, an anaerobic digester that would sit right next to our wastewater treatment plant. And then Synagro gets rid of the liquid. They're a national firm.
I'm interested in seeing that. Well, where's the solid go? Through the chair, where's the rest?
So
after
they do it
after
at the
you
transfer station.
Okay. So
And then,
it's
and so instead of getting rid of 100%, they get rid of
Okay.
70%.
Yeah, all right, that makes
And
sense.
through the chair, we need to work on this together because we finally got Commissioner Dykes to listen to us to an idea that I didn't know was 100% possible to do, but we have our BRFC
Yes.
communities, 14 of them, right?
Yeah.
That all the trash goes through Bristol and then literally a quarter mile away, we already have Quantum. So we said to them, listen, let's do this multi-step. I get the sorting of the bags, but that's gonna take years to train people. If we take 20% instead of the 40% out with a process like that, which they were intimating to me wasn't available and wasn't possible, that'd be a pretty cool solution right there because you have all of those facilities. And then my thought process is that opens up Cavanta for, 10 or 12 more communities perhaps that have been left off of Mira. So
Such a
it's a very common sense approach. Didn't realize that you guys were looking at it, but that's a great opportunity to make sure we go up to the state together. We don't need the funding for the digester, it's there. We just need, the help with the processing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Yes, so what I would suggest to everyone, we've discussed previously investigating and setting up a regional waste authority. I would encourage you all to, I have some of the staff working on background memo for this, and we'll make a presentation to you in the near future. But the thing about creating the regional waste authority is you can do all of these things and by the various methods and the various plants and arrangements that you have, but you can bring it together under a single umbrella. It's going to be obviously, from the discussion today, a very important issue going forward. And every town has a slightly different approach. Every town has a different arrangement right now. But the way to make it available to everyone, whether it's in Bristol or in Naugatuck, or the Regional Waste Authority building its own new facility to take care of this, you all can be partners in that, regardless of your current relationships. So I would suggest you keep that in the back of your mind, and hopefully we'll have some background memo on that for you relatively soon.
Okay, wow, kind of cool stuff, right?
Trash talk.
Talking trash.
That's
That's
Letter.
We
have a lot of trash.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. St. John.
Mayor, just, this is, kind of interesting. I think my young age is catching up with me, but in the eighties, when our community first went to recycling, everything was separated, everything went here and there and every other place. And, we came together under really two massive state agencies. We felt we came in, it was originally CRA, and there was another group out there besides CRA that but finally got us involved in resource recovery away from transfer station, but not transfer station, but away from landfills. And here we are, we're going right through, we're letting history repeat itself. Now we're going back, we're going to start separating everything. We're going to do this. We did this for years, and then Deep said, oh no, single stream and all, just put it all in together and they'll figure out what they got to do with it. And recycles are such a cyclical market. You know, one day it's up, one day it's down, one day it's up, one day it's down. And it's just, we're going through this whole process all over again. It's sad. It's really sad.
And then they won't approve any more burn plants.
I know.
And we led the nation in resource recovery. This state led the nation in resource recovery.
The biggest problem we have is deep. You can talk about all the theories you want about it, but I think that it is kind of hit the nail on the head, and as we are chasing our tail here.
Yeah, I'll never see it squared away, and not in my lifetime, that's for sure, even though despite my young age.
I sit on a panel called Local Government Advisory Committee, the EPA. I'm the only person from Connecticut on it.
Wow.
And if you want to glimpse into the thinking of EPA, I know that you might get nervous when you see what's coming out of deep. Well, you may not sleep if you listen in on one of my calls. It's really, look, there's so much validity in just a lot of it, but it's like pie in the sky, open checkbook. It's incredulous. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's people, I get on this call twice a month, people from all over the country, and I just listen to them. And it's like, it's interesting, I can tell you that. It makes our deep look conservative.
That's scary.
It really is.
That's scary.
I would love to just make one addition, just to bring it back to this grant. Something that we talk about a lot, the waste crisis is huge. There's so many pieces of it, like you mentioned, with recycling, we might have to go back to sorting out recycling. But food waste is something that every single day, probably 3 times a day, we all have control over. And this program is giving people the tools for at least this limited duration of time to see that and to feel it and to see the change that they can make by diverting their food waste in here when it happens to it. So it's something that we do have control over and we have the funds to do it, which is why we're pushing outreach and education. And to make all these changes happen and to unlock funding, we need programs like this that attract attention. And Christine and I, this is something that we talked about a lot last night in Ansonia. People were really excited to hear the industry, the recycling magazines that are really big in this world are watching Connecticut. Connecticut is really being a leader. They're watching Ansonia, they're watching West Haven, they're watching what happens, and that all attracts industry here and attracts business. And so we're trying to create the market for that. So hopefully we see more funding unlocked and more opportunities moving forward. This is a very forward-looking problem, and like you said, you know, there were some solutions in the 80s, and we're seeing history repeat itself. So we got to think bigger and newer, and I think this program we're really excited about is being one opportunity for all of us every single day to be making that. So thank you, and we'll come to know.
No, we love your energy. I know, that's just, that's. I was gonna ask you if you're related to my daughter.
There's a water.
She's an environmental.
Yeah.
I mean, she's amazing, and listen to Katie, I thought for a second there Maggie was in the room.
Mayor, there's a Waterbury firm known as I Recyclable, or I Recycle.
Yeah.
EYE, okay? Who is looking to partner, I know with Thomason and probably has with some other communities for glass and cans. So it's an opportunity to get some of your recyclables out of the waste stream, a little less tonnage. Bottles, as we all know, glass bottles are heavy, right? So there's an opportunity to get some of that out of the waste stream. We're talking to them right now about something, you know, I would simply suggest, think about it a little bit. Maybe you want to contact him. You know the gentleman's name? I can't think of his name. Maybe you want to.
I don't have it on the top.
Neither do I.
He's
But
on the water bill, right?
That's, yes, correct.
Yeah.
So it might be a possibility for some of the local communities to take advantage of a program that he's talking about. I'll say right now, we're simply talking about him sending a truck up to my town once a week. And we're going to work out the details on that, wherein people, it's not they're going to pick it up curbside, but where people might deposit those things themselves. He's willing to pay them as well for the items they're given. What dollar value or whatever, I'm uncertain. It might incentivize some folks that want to do that and really are being green, right? And we as community leaders would suggest that it can bring down our tip fees, which would help the taxpayers, obviously. And it's just some food for thought for all parties.
We hired a guy, CJ, who's actually a Yale graduate.
As is Katie, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's a magician as well. I mean, he's a very interesting character, right? Anyways, we hired him about 10 years ago. And he goes into, amongst other places, all of our schools and teaches our kids as young as kindergarten about recycling. And I have to tell you, he's made an amazing impact in Waterbury. He really has. Our recycling tonnage has gone up tenfold since he's been on board. And it's kind of cool to watch him because he gets the kids' attention by, you know, the magic. And then he goes into the recycling. He's a very interesting guy. And I got to tell you something, he's made a big difference in Waterbury. You had a.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and not to beat a dead horse, but just to further what First Selectman Moen was talking about, when I was at the Capitol last week, I met with the state representative from Southbury, Representative Harrison, and she was talking about a facility in Beacon Falls that takes glass out of the waste stream and then uses it as a replacement for silica in concrete. She was mesmerized by this plant, and she suggested that I try to coordinate maybe a visit to that plant. And
That's urban mining CT.
there you go.
Yeah.
So that's something we'll probably talk about from both the legislative and environmental perspective, because I know she's hot on that in Hartford. And it seemed to make a lot of sense, but she said she would gladly go back there again because she was so impressed with that operation. So we'll look at some of that stuff from both angles, both legislatively, to your point, Mayor Leary, a lot of pie in the sky stuff. Let's look at stuff that's actually reasonable and achievable this session that we can tackle. That's the stuff we'll try to live in that, on that level. So
is that an ONG operation?
it is shared operation. with
Yeah.
ONG.
It's worth the visit.
I had a lot of information on that because we were trying to get them into Waterbury before they ended up being involved. Yeah, I would love to go on that.
Yeah, I think we'll try to set that up.
I
We'll try
would
to
go,
coordinate that for all the
I would
teams.
absolutely go on that.
We went down to Mayor, we went down with Mark and it's phenomenal. It's great. It's worth seeing, yeah. It's a big and fall.
Are you, Christine? Oh, sorry.
If you can get approval for reuse of glass, that would be phenomenal because it's a big denominator in the waste stream.
100%.
Other states allow glass to be, and I've said this before, be ground up and put in a road base. You can't do that in Connecticut. Why? Why? It reduces itself to sand almost.
They do it in New York City.
I don't know. This is there are solutions out there and there are good solutions. There are green solutions that make a lot of sense. I mean,
That's where all this glass goes to New York.
we're separating the glass now, in our recycle bins.
So we would need to further separate it, right? Because single stream put it all in one spot.
Well, what do you mean? We're not doing single stream.
He's separating.
We're separating.
You are?
Well, we have cardboard glass.
They are. We did it.
You have a little, I remember we did.
We'll have to be at the big containers.
Right. Huh?
You guys do things?
Yeah.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah, we do single stream. We separate out.
With the cost of recyclables today, people are hard to throw it all into the trash. They go to the burn. That's what's gonna happen.
The food, I mean, to my friend back there, reminds me of my environmental advocate daughter. The truth is the food is the easiest for us to address. I mean, think about the restaurants. Everything goes in one big
Commercial
dumpster.
and institutional.
Right,
based.
household is debatable, but I
Exactly.
suppose it depends how much.
The schools would be key.
The schools,
90% of their.
Tommy,
Yeah.
you're right, that's.
We tried.
We did,
We
so,
didn't get the grant, but
yeah.
that's the
we did-
schools.
and now
would be- And
Shelton,
they're all
we're
for
looking
it.
to fund for Shelton, the glass separation, but, I think Shelton just didn't have the capacity at the time to accept it, but Deep is willing to work with. I know Deep can be challenging at times, but I think Deep is willing to work
You
with.
should just
good
say you're
ideas.
willing to work with us. No, I'm not trying to be a wise guy, but it's difficult because every town should have gotten money to do this, to try it in their schools. That would cut down on the waste. Because the schools, it's right there. The workers are ready to do it. Everyone's ready to do it. The transportation will be already right there, so.
Yeah,
Put it in.
and then you can say, it's so easy, a kindergartner can do
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
Everyone feels guilty if they don't do it.
We'll get CJ up there in all the schools.
CJ, he is phenomenal. He has been a huge supporter of basically every waste effort and other environmental efforts we do at the COG. He reposts everything we do on social media. He is a gold mine. So it has been a true pleasure to work with him. And just as a final thought, I don't think that there is one silver bullet to this. I don't think just building more incinerators is going to solve it. I think there are many things we need to do, including food waste diversion, including creating more capacity in the region. I do think that's part of the recipe, but I think there's a lot of other things we need to do to reduce our trash.
Well, we're gonna rely on you, Christine and Katie to lead that march.
You got it.
And your daughter too, Neil.
I think she'll be a student for life. Okay, Christine, are we finished with you? Are you on the item? Did we cover everything you wanted to cover? Item agenda 6.
On the country disposal tour, yep, I
Okay.
just wanted to,
How
you don't
about
mind.
the waste crisis story map?
Yep, I'll be super brief. So thank you very much for your input last meeting about the waste crisis story map. We incorporated those corrections, sent the final draft to CEOs for review, and received no further comments. So COG staff is now actively promoting this educational resource. So far, we have had excellent feedback. We even had a UConn professor reach out and say that she'll be adding the story map to her syllabus for next semester. So thank you very much for supporting this important project. And I have one more quick update that's not on there. It's just about household hazardous waste. We're continuing to work with MXI, our selected vendor, to renew that household hazardous waste contract. And we expect to have good news for you at next month's meeting.
Oh, that's good. I brought a lot of household stuff down there in some here. I emptied out a portion of my basement. That was great, that quarterly or whatever that is. That's really cool. All right, we've got Aaron on Deep Recreational Trails Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as we discussed last month, there's a new round of DEP State Recreational Trails Program funding available right now. The deadline for applications is March 1st. The program will fund planning, design, and construction of new trails or maintenance and restoration of existing trails, among other trail-related activities. There's $9 million available, which is a lot more than it's ever been made available through the program. We do still expect it to be very competitive. DEP held a webinar this past Wednesday, and I will share the presentation and the video recording as soon as it's available with all of you. We've had a lot of interest from our member towns. We're assisting right now on several applications. So I ask that if you do need help or a letter of support for an application that your town is putting in, that you just please let me know as soon as possible so that we can accommodate all of those requests. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. I have something for all of you. I've been told that although Connecticut is the only state that we are aware of that has all 169 communities participating in the opioid settlement, which is really good for Connecticut because we get a larger percentage because we're 100% compliant. I've been told by the AG's office and people at CCM that some of, and I don't have the list, but I'm getting it. Some of the towns have not followed up to get the money that should be coming their way. So to give you an example, I know you guys are a lot smaller than Waterbury, but so far we've gotten $445,000 in Waterbury alone. And I got a correspondence earlier in the week that the large number of the pharmaceutical companies or the drugstores, if you will, CVS's and the like, are settling, and the Connecticut share of that money will be 600 million to be divided up. So there's a lot of money on the table here, you guys. And so I'm trying to figure out a plan to come up with a plan that's suitable for the smallest community to the largest on what to do with this money.
Yeah.
You know, so I would welcome anyone who wants to help me, especially our NVCOG family, put together that plan. You know, for most of it, I think awareness is really important, prevention is really important, but there's also, you know, the support of treatment facilities and things of the like. Sure.
Totally agree. We I think they call them recovery coaches.
Yes.
You know, for the years we've been working with this, that's the only thing that has even come close to putting a dent in a problem. So I would take a close look at that.
Yeah, we actually hired in Waterbury through a grant that we got through Washington, DC. We have created what's called a warm handoff program. So we actually have recovery coaches that go to the scene of overdoses and work with the family members. And of course, the victims themselves who, you know, look, it's like running a reentry center. You know, if you're batting 300 in baseball, you're doing really good, right? So I tell all of our people, if we're batting 300, or if we can even get a little bit higher on this reentry center and the warm handoff program, you're doing pretty good. So, George?
Yeah, been concerned about this for quite some time now. You know, one of the things that bothers me is the stigma that's on the drug users. You know, in reality, many of them are victims, but we don't look at it that way. You know, druggies, you know, they got what they deserve type of thing. And, you know, I think that's gotta be reversed. I don't know whether we do that, from a public relations point of view or whatever. And I think, part of what I would like to spend the money that we get on it is for enforcement. You know, to hunt these people down. I mean, yesterday I got an inquiry where they wanted, the DEA wanted, to have one of our cops for 3 years just to learn about that now. And this is something that we could defray the cost of that. We're a small town, that's a lot of money, you know, but they'll pay overtime and stuff like that. But I think, you know, there's so many facets to this problem. You know, those are two that come to mind for me, but, you know, what you said, Pete, is also very important. And, you know, when parents come to us and they, you know, their kid has a problem, a lot of times they don't come to us because of the stigma that we talked about. And, you know, until it's too late, but if they do, we gotta be able to direct them. We have to be able to, you know, say, well, you know, this is what we have to do. And I know in Oxford, we have put together a opioid committee. And you know, I would suggest that for everything. You know, and it's amazing that people get that really add quite a bit onto that, and many of them are very much involved in curing it. Or not, you're not gonna cure it, but addressing the problem once it becomes a problem before it's too late.
Well, a little walk down memory lane here, you know, remember, and Joe Dunn, Tommy's brother, was a real trailblazer in this area, quite frankly, some 12 years ago. He started exactly what you're talking about, George.
That's to say,
Crossroads.
yeah, Crossroads.
And, you know, we held the forum out in Wolcott when I was a police chief out there for a short period of time. And the families that showed up in the auditorium, it was amazing. It was such an eye opener for me, George. But, you know, but as a cop for all those years, you know, I gotta tell you, until this prescription drug issue became known, and my own personal experiences, my son had 4 wisdom teeth out, and I went home that afternoon and he had a prescription of 30 oxys on the table, right? And then with 2 refills, right? I swear to God, same kid has a hand injury playing basketball, 1-day surgery, you know, something here. I come home and he's got a prescription of 30 Percocets, 1 refill. I mean, the poor kid, he didn't take 1 pill, I wouldn't let him. But
you gotta say why, right?
you know, and then I started to learn more about it, and you know, I have friends of mine that own businesses, restaurant businesses, and you know, back then, we're talking 10, 11, 12, 13 years ago, big pharmaceuticals would come into their restaurants and take the restaurant for the night and wine and dine all these docs and their immediate office staff. And, you know, I'd say, who the hell are these people? Well, they're all the doctors in the area, big pharma's here. They're buying $300 bottles of wine. And of course, the restaurant guys loved it because they make like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a night on these things, right? So, you know, it makes you start thinking, and then all of a sudden, you know, you hear of all these kids who, to your point, George, who are victims. I mean, there's sports injuries, there's football players who, you know, have these shoulder injuries and knee injuries. And these are all the kids that all of a sudden it's just like epidemic in the United States of America with this big pharmaceutical. And that's why we sued them. Waterbury and you guys were the first towns to sue Big Pharma And we got criticized for it in the local newspaper, if you remember. They wrote a couple editorials against her. And now, you know, the truth is out and these big pharmaceutical companies are settling one by one, and Purdue is next, by the way. But the truth is, it's a mess out there, and now it's worse. I hate to say it. It's worse because of fentanyl. Now fentanyl's coming in from China and primarily Mexico, where we were worried about the prescription drugs. Now it's all fentanyl. Every overdose death in Connecticut in 22 had fentanyl in their bloodstream. And it's worse because fentanyl is so easy to get. And it's so deadly. And they're even sprinkling in joints. You know, people talk about, you know, it's just sad. And the problem is, in fact, Fred Spagnola, the police chief of Waterbury, the DEA actually took him to Mexico and showed him the fentanyl labs that they have. Well, in China, the fentanyl labs are scientific, right? So the drug is made there, you know, synthetically, and it's, don't get me wrong, it's very profitable. But in Mexico, the labs are in the woods, literally in the woods. And they're making their own fentanyl. And they're not scientific about it. And so this is the fentanyl that's killing your kids. Because they think they're ingesting whatever they think they're ingesting. A bag of heroin is a bag of heroin, except that there's a small portion of it that's maybe fentanyl or may not be, or a large portion of it that is fentanyl, and then you're dead. You just die. That's the end of the story. And I'll tell you, it's scary. But you saw, if you see the pictures of these fentanyl labs in Mexico that Fred took, you know, they went in by helicopter and they showed him, you know, him and a bunch of other police chiefs. And it's just, you can't believe that this is the stuff that's going in our kids' bodies, right? It's just unbelievable.
But
So,
Mr. Neil, you put me down as somebody that'd be interested in discussing this. I don't want to.
I would really like to come up with a plan that meets the needs of small and large towns. I am on so part of the national opioid settlement, every state has been mandated to put together committees. So I've been placed on the committee for the state, which gives us a lot of say into where this money goes. So would love to hear from you guys where you think this money should go.
Be more than happy to join you as well. And I actually do have a pharma biotech background as well too, but there is other means of this funding coming through from what I understand. Maybe you can clarify this for me. And I just had a meeting last week that it's not just the individual pockets that go to the towns and cities, but there's a big portion of this that's sitting with the Attorney General's office to go ahead and come up. So we need to come up with a plan. And clearly, I don't need to beat the dead horse. This is no different from Waterbury to Oxford to Bristol to Plymouth to any town. It's across every town. We need to work together on this.
Yeah. The formula is a large percentage of this money. So you heard what we've gotten from the little formula.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But the big formula or the big percentage does go to the state, and the state is really interested in hearing from us as to where the money should go.
We have some ideas, which is why I want to work with you as well too, because one of them is to create a community resource officer in conjunction with a licensed social worker to be on the scene for these events to give people the wraparound services and the help that they need. And by the way, we are going to use our cannabis money, which I might be a oddball in this room that will have a 3% tax from recreational use. So, we're going to refund that back into substance abuse, mental health. So that's, one of the thoughts and ideas and ways to go, but that can be applied regionally, statewide as well.
Mayor, I love your idea of setting together a little group. There's 19 of us at the table here. You got unbelievable resources. We're the little domino in the group. And I'm not certainly an expert, but our community's been extremely hard hit with this drug abuse thing, especially with our young people. Seems to be leveling off a little bit, but I maybe spoke too soon on that one. But I would welcome to serve with the group. It'll be educational for me. And I'm sure that all of us are gonna need, it'd be great if we could head up a group that could reach out there and get some help so we could bring in possibly some real experts that could tell us and help us put together a good program there. But I'd love to serve with you, and if we can get some representative from all 19 towns here, I think it would be a giant step in the right direction. And there's strength in numbers, just like this regional waste thing. When you sit as a big group, there's strength in it. And this would be a great cause for us to take on. So many times it's just swept under the rug.
So Rick, you're on the call still.
Yes.
You there? So
I am.
can we impose on the COG to coordinate this group of at least our 19 towns that are interested in being a part of it, and set up a subcommittee, and we can use your administrative staff to help out?
Oh,
For meeting
absolutely.
meeting schedules and such.
Yeah, absolutely. I would probably put this on Drew's plate and have him do the coordination between the towns. Absolutely.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Right. So Drew will reach out to all of you, and for those of you that have the time to participate, let's make sure that we get going on this. We'll start this in early to mid-February. Okay.
Well done. Thanks, man.
All right, good. So look at there's, you know, you guys wouldn't believe it. I had a hard time convincing some of our towns to sign up. And it was some of our smallest communities and wealthiest communities in the state. And, you know, I was very candid with them. I said, listen, I actually had people say, well, Neil, we really don't have that problem here. I said, listen, yes, you have it. You may not know you have it. You may not want to admit you have it, but you have it. And you want to be the only communities that don't sign up, because if you don't sign up, you get nothing. You can sign up and still decide not to participate, but if you don't sign up at all, you're gonna be like, the headline is gonna be like, why isn't this community signing up? And, you know, I had a deadline of like January 3rd at midnight, right? To get all 169. I had 4 people working on this in my office, right? And it was like 10:30 that night that I got the last 3 towns to sign in, and I had to beg them. And it was the most basic thing. I couldn't get over it.
Well, this is what I was talking about, not just the stigma of drugs. You know, if there's a stigma, well, you know, it doesn't happen in Naugatuck, it doesn't happen in Oxford. BS, it happens every town.
Oh, yeah.
That's where Crossroads, through the chair, that's where Crossroads started, was not my kid. And that's when my brother just stood up in the community after 3 kids died, and his son was almost one of them. Thank God he's still there, but that's how it started. Not my kid. Nobody would believe it. They were afraid.
Oh, absolutely.
They were afraid to admit, you know, they're like the best player on the baseball team or in the sport.
We had a candlelight service, and it was amazing. So I don't know how many people, probably a couple of hundred people. And one girl, she was from Shelton, Mark. She got out, she says, I've been clean and sober for 3 days, and I need a place to be. And she was crying. Just about everybody there was crying, because we really everybody wanted to help this girl. It wasn't just, you know, your town or, you know, my town or whatever. So these are the kind of, I mean, when you see that kind of stuff, I mean, I've gone, you know, we had 7 overdoses of deaths in 1 year.
Yeah.
And we're a small town.
I remember.
You know,
I knew some of those kids.
It wasn't hard for that committee to get some people to come in from those groups that, and they show you, remember the parent from Pompera came into Terrell School that day, just lost 2 kids. But just to show you what the kids do and how they actually get away with doing some of the stuff in their bedrooms and what they're made of. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
So obviously, you know, they go from the prescription drugs to the heroin and, you know, now that we were successful, Connecticut and love them or not like them, Tong has done a really good job on this in the sense that he, you know, and Jackson before him advocated to put more restrictions on big pharma companies and also they have to report who they sell to and then they put restrictions on the doctors who prescribe and they have to generate reports on how much they're prescribing now. So all of a sudden that dropped half, 50%. But the issue is then the addicts couldn't get the drug through the doctor. So then they went to the heroin on the street. And by the way, out of our 100 and something dead people in 22 in Waterbury, more than half of them are not from Waterbury. They're from your towns. Yeah. Because they come here because there's the supply chain.
Right.
Yeah. And they buy the heroin, they stop at Home Depot parking lot, they shoot it up and they die right in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is an increasing trend of Narcan resistant, overdoses too. So we still save, of all those that we lose, in Bristol, I just heard the number, we saved 52 out of the 54 overdoses that our police responded to, all responded to Narcan, we saved them. But there's a growing number of people that are not becoming Narcan resistant because of all the synthetic stuff.
We had somebody just last week that took 6 Narcan deployments to bring them back. And we're starting to see that.
You also have to worry about the cops.
6.
The cops can OD just being on the scene.
And that's a real problem.
Yeah.
And the unions are really starting to get more and more aware of this because cops across the country have been exposed to this fentanyl through airborne or touching. Yeah.
So Mayor, I'm at this end, so I apologize. Lauren, please work with Drew to put together the notices and, Drew can arrange for the meetings, work on an agenda and put them together, but I need you to assist him in getting the notices out for the mayors and for select persons.
And I'll stop talking so you can all get out of here. But the last thing I do want to mention, this may or may not be important to your towns. But I've got this big issue in Waterbury with this red light stuff, where we have more pedestrian fatalities in last year than we ever had before. Anywhere in Waterbury, you can sit at a red light and watch the traffic go right through it. I don't know, it's like the sickest thing I've ever seen, but I'm really pushing hard for red light cameras this session. I want to be a pilot city. If the state doesn't want to adopt it, just a pilot city, just let us do it and see what happens. Most of you don't have this issue, but there is something interesting out there that you may be interested in, and they're called speed cameras. So on the busiest street in your little town, you might want to put a speed camera. You might be interested in that. I'm not looking at it from an enforcement perspective, to be quite honest with you. I'm looking at it from prevention. Says, when I was a cop, they used to send us out to run the radar in the old days, you point the thing at the car and whatever. I never really gave anybody tickets. Mostly you get these 17 and 18-year-old kids flying down the road, like in Waterbury, Orinoco Road, the Holy Cross, just use it as an example. And we used to go to the house and say, listen, do you realize your kid was going 78 miles an hour and Orinoco Road in a 35-mile thing? And listen, I was very cognizant because I had children. We never gave tickets unless they were like multiple repeaters because you know what it does to your insurance, you know what it does to your. And parents are so grateful when you knock on the door and say, listen, I'm not going to give your kid a ticket there, Mr. Moan, but little Eddie needs a pocket. You know what I'm saying? And I think those speed cameras would be good for something like that. I put one on Orinoco Road today if I had one, to be honest with you, and other places.
Yeah, I don't perform those speed cameras. I think they're pretty effective.
Yeah, so if you guys have any interest in any of that, I met with our delegation. I think there was 7 of our legislators there, all but one was on board. When I tried to bring it up when I was a police chief in 15 and 16, I couldn't get any traction, big brother watching over you type thing. And it's just another way for the government to be watching over us, but there's cameras everywhere now. So, that theory is kind of out the window. So I'm kind of hoping we get some traction this time around.
Mr. Chair, May I suggest, as Rich mentioned earlier, we have Vision Zero. And he and I, the transportation team, sort of talked about that as a action that we'd like to look at more. There are places throughout the country have especially the red light running cameras. And we can do some research to sort of get some of the data on how effective they have been and sort of work with, our TTAC. And as Richard mentioned, we're trying to get the Vision Zero committee together. And that could be one of areas that we'll, focus in on.
Well, we have a lot of, I'm sorry.
You wanted this legislative. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, there's national transportation. We have a lot of the data that we'd be happy to share with you guys that we pulled out. I'm sure the COG can pull out even more data. Look, they're effective.
Yeah.
They're effective, and I was down in Philadelphia in October and my phone said, red light camera ahead, right? So I was early for an event, so I just parked the car and I was watching the intersection. And I was watching it for about 20 minutes. I swear to God Almighty, I did not see one car go through, and it was a busy intersection, red light, because they all know the red light cameras are there. So just by the mere presence of them.
Oh, yeah, even if they don't work, Mayor.
Even if they don't work. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I may, red light and speed cameras were one of the items addressed by the Vision Zero Commission statewide, and they did recommend bringing legislation forward this year.
Good. Well, maybe we should all get together on that too. I mean, because we've got, DGO Von Carlo is our state rep, already put a bill in. So if you guys are interested in jumping on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think
Mr. Chairman, if there's no opposition, then we would take it up as a COG matter as well and testify in support, submit testimony and track the bills as well. So Drew, if you want to add that in and coordinate with Rich and Mark.
Drew, good thing you don't have any hair.
I know.
All right, so that's all I got. You guys got anything?
Mayor, just along those cameras, we went, and I think we're with Waterbury, Naugatuck, and several other towns with these recall cameras that are kind of geared to the stolen cars and all the various things. We have them, several of them around.
Yeah, we did.
Around town. They've been at their boy here dispatch. Be on the alert. You just had a stolen car go by you. Very, very, very effective.
The technology's there. You must take advantage of it.
That's all they're doing at this point in time. And I'm sure there'll be some other steps to that because they're all in intersections that have red lights.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be helpful.
Oh, yeah.
In a lot of points besides.
And I think they're all tied together, so your dispatch people are all getting the same information, and I'm told it's it's worked out great. We just got them up and running a few minutes ago.
All right, a closing comment, then we're gonna adjourn. On a lighter note, as I make my way up the Naugatuck Valley on Route 8 North, for years, I used to see a sign that said Oxford Airport, this exit. So a couple weeks ago, I go by the sign that says Waterbury, Oxford Airport.
I've been meaning to talk to you.
Now, Mayor, go down. We're gonna run down on the agenda for next month.
It's been the Waterbury Oxford Airport.
That's
the real name for it.
That is right.
Yeah, it's been that for 30 years.
I never knew that.
And Mayor Hess, can we put the four of us together in a meeting second week of February?
Yeah, sure.
I want to talk about some stuff I think that's kind of important. I did have the people, the new owners, I guess, or the new operators of that airport came in my office recently. And I would love to get the four of us in a room and talk about something I have in my head. And I think it could be something that could be relatively successful.
I'm seeing, we're beginning to see some of the little footprints moving around and everything, and as you will know, they're in our town.
Yeah, so
it's all in that zone, which is.
And I don't care, we can meet in one of our offices.
Is that what your fight is, right?
Well, it's not it's split between that all.
Well, I think I started.
All right, I'm gonna have,
How do you deal with our planning and zoning commission?
I'm gonna have my staff reach out to you guys for a date and time, okay?
We can meet in my town because that's where the airport is.
Let's look at the airport. I was thinking maybe a nice little restaurant up that way.
Yeah, that's work.
How's that sound?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Rick, you got the parking passes from? I got the old one.
Really?
I don't think we have them yet.
Rick doesn't.
Not yet. Not yet.
Lauren, do we have them yet?
Not yet.
What are you waiting on, Waterbury line?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found out that, and it's not anything to do with the people here, that's for sure, but I was looking through the list of people who have parking passes that has grown to about 300 and about 70% of them don't need them. So that's probably the holdup because I've been going through them and scratching them off. I didn't realize that my good friends at the police department were giving them out too.
Nice.
So.
Just look at all the revenue.
That's what I'm saying. Jeez.
Does the 2022 still work for today?
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
Knocking on the door.
All right.
Looking for a join?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to
Thank
go.
you all.